or a lot of those observations come from the fact that when Narendra Bhai was the chief minister out here, there was a lot of spotlight out here, right? I mean, we would sort of talk about the Gujarat model and talk about Gujarat politics each and every day, day in and day out. That would sort of be the topic out there in Delhi too. So, and right now, since Narendra Bhai has transitioned out, the focus has shifted completely to Delhi, and that sort of could be a reason as to why people outside of Gujarat might think that things are not very stable at Gujarat. But being a resident of Gujarat, I can totally assure you one thing is things have been as stable as they were before. And in terms of stability and in terms of development, I just see things getting better day by day with the current transition that has taken place.
Namaste, everybody. Welcome to Citti Media. My name is Citti, your host. Yesterday, we've seen a plethora of events happening politically across India, and one event stands out, which is that Chief Minister Rupani resigned and a new Chief Minister is in place in Gujarat. And to discuss about Gujarat's political culture and the preparation for the next upcoming assembly elections, we have a political observer and a co-founder of Bhavya Bharat, Vaidya Iyer ji. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sharon. It's good to be here.
How are you and how's everyone? I hope you are healthy and safe.
Yep. Thank you for asking. Everyone's safe. Hope the same at your end as well, Sharon.
Right. So diving right into the topic, now you have been observing Gujarat politics for a very long time now, and you're very passionately following whatever current socio-political developments happen in Gujarat. Now, could you tell us the reason for Mr. Rupani's resignation as the Chief Minister of Gujarat?
Yeah. Sharon, before we get into the reasons in terms of A, B, C, I would want to sort of explain to the viewers as well the context in which Gujarat has been sort of transitioning in a political sphere ecosystem, I would say, over the last decade or so. So we have been seeing that Congress, post-independence Congress, has been ruling the state for the majority of the time until the emergence of Narendra Modi, wherein we saw that that particular phase of Gujarat politics was the most stable. We saw a government which was governance oriented, which was more of more people, more power to the people. And that was a time when we saw a very stable government, wherein nobody in the state sort of questioned as to when the government would fall or not.
Right.
In during the times of when Congress was there, we would see a lot of changes. I mean, what we are seeing right now of Mr. Rupani's resignation, we would see at least a CM get changed in 1 year or 2 years when Congress was in government. At that time, that instability was not something which the people of Gujarat wanted. And thankfully, once the BJP came into power, we saw an era of a stable governance-oriented government come into place. And what we need to understand before understanding Mr. Rupani's resignation is that we need to talk a little bit more about the post-Modi era in Gujarat's context.
Right.
Is when the emergence of Anandiben Patel came into existence, and then we saw a good 3 to 4 years of Anandiben Patel ruling, and then we saw Mr. Rupani stepping into the CM's chair. And I mean, we probably may not have realized, but Mr. Vijay Rupani served for a term of 5 years and 36 days to be precise. So that's a good term if you talk about the politics in Gujarat. And if we talk about why Mr. Rupani stepped down, I would maybe go very broad to say that the change is a constant. I mean, we probably need to see change in political cycles. We need to change. We need to see the younger generation take over the reins, and the shift of responsibilities also happening. So that's exactly the case which is happening in Gujarat right now. I mean, of course, there's a lot of back factors, and we'll talk more about it in terms of caste equations and stuff. But from a purely political perspective, this is just a change or a transitioning happening from one power to the hands of the younger generation. That's how I perceive it, and that's how I see it. And to be very honest, before COVID, I don't see any blot in terms of Mr. Rupani's governance. I mean, we saw 5 years of good governance. We did not have any, he did not have any blot in terms of his, in terms of corruption or any other scams for that matter. It was, I would say, it was a good, prosperous 5 years. And knowing, I mean, thinking of from a BJP as a political organization, they are tend to sort of change and give powers from a governance, from the government to the to the party. So that's what's happening right now. I think Mr. Rupani will assume some important position in the party.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Rupani was in charge of media at one point of time in BJP's national organization. So he transitioned from the party, from a responsibility from a party to the government, and now he's back to the party. So I think that's a standard and a normal transition, and it wasn't a case of maybe the central leadership asking Mr. Rupani to step down. That was certainly not the case. Mr. Rupani thought it was the right time to sort of transition the leadership, and that's what happened.
Right. So you're saying that there was no case of forced resignation and that the transition was absolutely smooth. Point duly noted. But Mr. Vaidya, do tell us more about the political culture of Gujarat, because for people outside of Gujarat, they are perhaps aware about the politics of Gujarat in a post-Modi era. They're only discussing politics related to that, but in reality the socio-political dynamics of the state are quite different even within the BJP, if you consider for that matter. Like you were rightly saying, there is no internal friction as far as the party leadership and stability is concerned, whereas in states like Karnataka, where I'm from, the case is different. So how would you define the political culture of Gujarat BJP?
Yeah, that's a very good question to understand what's happening in today's context, Sharon. I would rather draw your attention to the Patidar Andolan, which happened some years ago, and in spite of that being such a massive sort of protest against the government, we still saw no cracks in the organization. I mean, that says a huge deal about the party in Gujarat, especially BJP in Gujarat, right? I mean, Patidars and Patels are one of the most influential community out here in Gujarat, and and there's a lot of Patels and Patidars in within the party itself, and in spite of that, having that sort of unity and sort of navigating through such turmoil says a lot about how the culture is imbibed within every individual and every karyakarta of the party, right? I mean, that says a lot. Mm-hmm. So yes, like every other state, there are caste equations in Gujarat as well, but they don't come to the forefront because Gujaratis as a whole, as a community, or people living in Gujarat as a community, I can talk about them. They are very development oriented. I mean, caste is something which we cannot neglect in this country, but nonetheless, I have seen people of Gujarat put development first and caste comes later for them. So, and that, like I said, that it's a huge symbolic gesture, given the fact that there was a huge protest across Gujarat, and in spite of so much pressure being put on them, still people of Gujarat are still united, and the party is united.
Right. Now, thank you so much. You bring up a very important point, especially about the politics of the opposition parties in Gujarat. And the Congress has tried various different methods. And now the Aam Aadmi Party is coming into the scene with its successful bid in Surat municipality election. So how do you see the opposition politics and game planning out?
Yeah, that's a good point, Sharan. Aam Aadmi Party during the recently concluded corporation election managed to win some seats in the corporation election in Surat specifically. That was a consolidation. Maybe you can say Aam Aadmi Party played the caste card over there and tried to get the Patidar votes over there. But nonetheless, I don't know if you are aware about the recent developments. Is that there was an en masse sort of Aam Aadmi Party corporators and workers who have recently joined the BJP. So, I mean, just proving the point that the cultural ethos of this community is pro-development. No matter what sort of opposition party comes and tries to play the caste card, eventually the people, the elected representatives as well of the opposition parties realize that the mandate of the people is towards one particular party, and that's BJP.
Right.
Because the party bats for development, and we see that no matter what party, whatever corporate or whatever MLA fights for whichever opposition party, they know that eventually they'll have to come back to the BJP, because that's where because BJP stands for the core of all of the people of Gujarat, and hence we see that. So that's a good point. I mean, AAP did sort of manage its way into the Surat Corporation elections, but we see that it's sort of reversed totally. So
you don't think that's a sustainable development and that it will fizzle out, especially considering the nature of assembly elections, or for that matter, Lok Sabha, because municipality is a little different when it comes to equations. You're right. And if I may redraw your attention to what we were discussing earlier about Chief Minister Rupani's resignation, and a new Chief Minister, and no political analyst or journalist or anybody has been able to predict this correctly. What do you think are the reasons the new Chief Minister is in place? And then can you tell us a little bit more about him so that our viewers can know more?
Yeah. I don't think this is new at all, Sharan. Like, I mean, of course, this sort of trend of projecting a person who is not in the forefront of media, who's not a part of the media attention, is not something new. I mean, think about 2002. I mean, Narendra Bhai wasn't the main choice for the chief minister as a replacement of the chief minister at that point of time. He was RSS Pracharak at that point of time, and he was in charge of. He was at Delhi, and he was flown all the way from Delhi to Gujarat, and he was asked to take the chief ministership of Gujarat at that point of time. And he had not contested any elections in Gujarat. Keep that in mind. So this is not something. This particular trend of getting the right person for the job need not be someone who is popular or who's sort of famous in the media. Mm-hmm. That is something which BJP truly believes in, and that I think again is a part of the culture of BJP in Gujarat. The current chief minister, who's going to take the oath as we speak right now, he comes from a very humble background. He is an engineer. He had a huge mandate he contested for the first time as an MLA in Ahmedabad, and he won by a huge mandate. So that speaks a lot in terms of the popularity of him. And we see that we sort of see that he has been chosen for the right job, and not because he comes from a particular caste or he comes from there's a lot of people following him. The party leadership thought that he's the right man for the job, and they chose him. Right. So it shouldn't come as a surprise for us, I guess.
So it's a merit-based appointment, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Extremely interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And if I may move on to another question, it perhaps is a little too early to discuss this, but then elections are very important. And Gujarat in a few months' time is again going to polls. And what do you think the parties are preparing, especially the BJP and the Congress?
Yeah, Sharan, that's a good point. I would say that the decisions of today is totally taken for keeping in mind the 2022 elections in mind. That I mean I totally believe that whatever decision BJP makes and has been making in the past is in context with what the future holds for us. So I believe that Bhupendra Patel's getting him as a chief minister is a very strategic move. Yes, he's not a popular leader in terms of PR and media, but he has brought a lot of change on the ground. And and I would say his selecting him as a chief minister is from a point of view of merit, but you cannot ignore the caste equations as well. He's a Patel at the end of the day, and I would say that a lot of the Patidar equation which would have come into the fray in 2022 would sort of be neglected right now. Getting a Patel from central Gujarat or Madhya Gujarat as a chief minister. So that is a tactical move. That is a strategic move. Now, if you talk about the implications of the 2022 elections, number one, there could have been a lot of possible problems in the BJP in 2022, given the fact that you see an anti-incumbency of more than 20 years, right? So that's a huge deal. And to fight that anti-incumbency, you don't have Narendra Bhai as a chief ministerial position, chief minister to project. And the opposition could have cashed in on a lot of those anti-incumbency factors riding on. So, but right now with the new chief minister coming in, he can be the face of change, right? He totally can bring about change, which is very much needed in the next 1 year. I see a lot of development happening in the next 1 year. There was a lot of development which happened in the last 5 years. I would say one drawback of the BJP is that they did not sort of communicate a lot as much as it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And although I, who has a keen, who has been looking at politics in keen and in sort of microscopic vision, I see that Vijay Rupani has done a lot, but has not been talking about it a lot or has not been communicating about it a lot. So I think one major change which would happen before the 2022 election is that we are going to talk a lot about the Gujarat model again. The Gujarat model might come back into the fray again. It's going to be talked about a lot again before the 2022 elections. And with the caste equation also sort of settling in, I see BJP's momentum growing in the next 1 year for sure, Sharan.
Right. Very interesting insights you've shared with us. So what are your predictions for the election? How do you think the BJP will get a big mandate? And of course, like we are far away from the election, but there is some sort of a stability in terms of Gujarat's electoral predictions, because the politics are in that nature, a little different from the other states. So in that sense, this is a two-parter question. A, what are your specific predictions for Gujarat? How do you think each party will fare? And my last question is, what do you think the Congress party's strategy will be? Are they preparing for something different this time?
Yeah, I'll take your first question right now and talk about it in a bit more detail. Although I'm no cephalogist, I can't make any predictions in terms of seats, but what I certainly can do is talk about what's the mood of the citizens out here. So certainly, if there was a strong opposition, people would have considered it. That's a part and parcel of all political scenarios that we're talking about in every state. But to be very honest, we do not see a credible opposition out here, even now, even today. AAP did come out as sort of a surprise for everyone in the corporation elections, but like you just mentioned and like we talked about, the equations of a corporation elections and a state level elections are way different. Right. So there's a lot more stakes involved in a state election. There's a lot more responsibilities riding in. There's a lot of there's a lot at stake, right? Even for a common citizen like me. I would want a party to come at power which I have some confidence in. Mm-hmm. Although last election, if you remember, there was some shock which we were getting in the beginning of when the results were being declared last state elections. We saw that Congress, at one point of time, Congress was ahead than BJP. So that was a shocker for a lot of citizens of Gujarat. And I think having that memory in mind, Sharan, people are going to make sure that this time around they do not have any such shocks which they would be getting. And I see a huge mandate in the favor of BJP coming in, given the fact that the next 1 year, again, maybe a call out here would be that the next 1 year should be as effective as the last 5 years would be, if not more. I certainly see the new chief minister coming in and doing a lot of development work and talking a lot more about it, and that will only lead to more consolidation. So I see AAP maybe coming in smaller pockets, but not enough to get any particular seat. I would certainly concede to the fact that AAP will get or will increase their vote share. But I don't see them getting translated into actual seats.
Right.
And Congress would certainly not do better than last year. It would, if things fall in place in the next 1 year, I see Congress getting lesser seats than what they did last year.
Right.
Given the fact that we have addressed the major caste equation, which was a problem last time around. This time around, I do not see that problem coming in terms of Patels getting divided. That's not going to happen.
Right. Only time can tell us what will happen in the elections, because that is the nature of politics in India. But thank you so much for joining us today, and very interesting insights, because even I was very curious to know more about Gujarat politics for a very long time now. From those who observe Gujarat politics from outside, we think that everything is stable. But of course, when you get into the internal dynamics of it, we get to learn a lot more about the political culture in Gujarat. And I'm glad that me and our viewers have learned a lot from this session. Thank you so much.
Sharan, just one quick point before we wrap it up is that I think a lot of those viewpoints or a lot of those observations come from the fact that when Narendra was the chief minister out here, there was a lot of spotlight out here, right? I mean, we would sort of talk about the Gujarat model and talk about Gujarat politics each and every day, day in and day out. That would sort of be the topic out there in Delhi too. So, and right now, since Narendra has transitioned out, the focus has shifted completely to Delhi, and that sort of could be a reason as to why people outside of Gujarat might think that things are not very stable at Gujarat. But being a resident of Gujarat, I can totally assure you one thing is things have been as stable as they were before. And in terms of stability and in terms of development, I just see things getting better day by day with the current transition that has taken place.
Right. We will duly note that, and thank you so much for adding that. And I hope you can join us time and again for more conversations like this.
For sure, Sharan. It's been a pleasure joining you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure too. And to all our viewers who are watching this, please do like, share, and subscribe. We will be bringing in more current affairs shows like this. Until then, this is your host, Sharan Citti, signing off.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.